World War III is trending. Iran, Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions between global powers, and you're terrified. You can't stop thinking about it. You're catastrophizing worst-case scenarios, nuclear war, global collapse, the end of everything, and the fear is consuming you. You can't sleep, you can't focus, you're spiraling into panic every time you see a new headline, and you're asking, how do I process this fear when it feels so real? Here's the truth, the fear is valid, the anxiety is understandable, but spiraling doesn't protect you, it fragments you, and you need different tools to process this fear consciously so you can stay functional instead of being paralyzed by terror. I know this fear intimately. Every time global tensions escalate, my mind goes to worst case. What if this is the start of World War III? What if everything collapses? What if nuclear weapons are used? And I'd spiral completely. I'd consume every article, every tweet, every prediction, trying to figure out if my fear was warranted. And the more I researched, the more terrified I became. Because you can always find evidence for your worst fears online. And I'd be stuck, paralyzed by terror, unable to function, completely consumed by a future that might never happen. Then I learned something from trauma therapists who work with people experiencing acute fear and panic. The goal isn't to eliminate the fear. That's impossible when the threat is real. The goal is to process the fear consciously so it doesn't hijack your entire system. To feel it without being consumed by it. To acknowledge it without letting it control you. And there are specific practices that let you do this. Practices that honor the fear while keeping you grounded. That's what I'm showing you today. Here's what we're covering. First, why trying to logic away the fear doesn't work and actually makes spiraling worse. Second, what's actually happening in your brain when you spiral and why it feels so real and urgent. And third, the 3 practices that will help you process the fear of World War III consciously so you can stay grounded instead of being consumed by terror. Let's start with why trying to rationalize away the fear doesn't help. When you're terrified of World War III, your thinking brain tries to help. It says, that's unlikely, don't catastrophize, focus on the positive, it'll probably be fine. And maybe logically you know these things are true. The likelihood of World War III actually happening is probably low. Most conflicts de-escalate. Humanity has avoided nuclear war for decades. But none of that logic touches the fear. Because fear isn't logical, it's emotional, it's physiological. And when your nervous system is activated in terror, logic can't reach it. In fact, trying to rationalize the fear often makes spiraling worse. Because part of you is terrified. And when you try to logic that part away, it gets louder. It brings up more evidence, more what-ifs, more scenarios. It says, but what about this threat? What about that possibility? You haven't considered this catastrophic outcome. And you end up in an argument with yourself. Your logical brain versus your terrified brain. And your terrified brain always wins because it's connected to your survival instinct. And survival trumps logic every time. Other people try to suppress the fear completely. They avoid news, they distract themselves, they pretend everything's fine. And while reducing news consumption is wise, complete suppression backfires because the fear is still there. It's just pushed down, unprocessed, and it leaks out in other ways. Irritability, insomnia, hypervigilance, difficulty connecting with others. The fear finds a way to express itself, and often it gets worse when suppressed because now you're carrying fear plus shame about having the fear. That's a heavier load. So if you can't logic it away and you can't suppress it, what do? You process it consciously. You feel it intentionally. You give it space without letting it consume you. And there's a specific way to do this that trauma-informed therapists use with people experiencing overwhelming fear. Here's how you actually process the fear of World War III without spiraling. Practice number 1. Name the fear specifically and let yourself feel it in your body for a contained period. Most people avoid feeling fear because they're afraid it will overwhelm them. But unprocessed fear is what overwhelms you. When you consciously process it, you gain control. So you set aside time, maybe 10 minutes. You set a timer and you say, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to let myself feel this fear fully. I'm not going to fight it or suppress it. I'm going to be with it. You name the fear out loud or write it down. I'm terrified of World War III. I'm scared of nuclear war. I'm afraid my loved ones will suffer. I'm terrified of global collapse. I'm scared of losing everything. You don't minimize it, you don't rationalize it, you just name it truthfully. And as you name it, you notice where you feel it in your body. Tight chest, clenched stomach, racing heart, trembling. You locate the sensation of fear in your body. And then you stay with that sensation. You breathe into it. You don't try to make it go away, you just let it be there. You might cry, you might shake, you might feel waves of terror move through you. And you let them. You're not drowning in the fear, you're consciously processing it. You're giving it the attention it needs so it doesn't have to scream at you through spiraling thoughts. And when the timer goes off, you gently bring yourself back. You ground, you orient to your environment, you wash your face, and you return to your life. This practice is counterintuitive. Most people think if they let themselves fully feel the fear, they'll fall apart. But the opposite is true. When you give fear conscious attention for a contained period, it dissipates. It doesn't grow, it releases. Because you're not fighting it, you're acknowledging it. And acknowledgement is what fear needs. It doesn't need you to fix it or rationalize it. It just needs to be felt. And once it's felt, it starts to settle. I do this regularly when World War III fears come up. I set my timer, I write, I'm terrified, I'm scared for my loved ones, I'm afraid of what's coming. And I cry, I shake, I let the fear move through me. And after 10 minutes, it's not gone. But it's not consuming me anymore either. It's been acknowledged, processed, and I can function again. Because I didn't try to suppress it or spiral in it, I just felt it, consciously. Practice number 2, distinguish between productive concern and unproductive catastrophizing. There's a difference between being appropriately concerned about global tensions and spiraling into catastrophic thinking. Productive concern looks like staying informed from reliable sources, having reasonable emergency preparations, talking to loved ones about contingency plans, supporting humanitarian causes, contacting representatives. These are actions within your control that address real concerns. Unproductive catastrophizing looks like obsessively consuming news and social media, playing out detailed worst-case scenarios in your mind, researching nuclear war effects, spreading panic to everyone around you, abandoning your life to prepare for apocalypse. These actions don't keep you safe, they dysregulate you. They create suffering in the present moment over a future that might never happen. And they make you less capable of handling crisis if it actually comes. So you ask yourself honestly, is what I'm doing right now productive concern or unproductive catastrophizing? Am I taking meaningful action or am I spiraling? If you're taking action, keep going. If you're spiraling, interrupt it. You notice, I'm catastrophizing, this isn't helping, I'm going to redirect. And you redirect to something grounding, to present moment, to your body, to something you can actually control. The practice is catching yourself in the spiral and choosing differently. Not judging yourself for spiraling, just noticing it, and choosing to come back to what's productive, what's within your control, what's actually happening right now, instead of what might happen in an imagined catastrophic future. Practice number 3, create a fear protocol. When fear comes up, you have a specific sequence to process it instead of spiraling. Spiraling happens when you don't know what to do with the fear. It just keeps circulating, building on itself, creating more fear. But if you have a protocol, a specific sequence of steps to take when fear arises, you can interrupt the spiral before it takes over. Your protocol might look like this. When I notice fear of World War III arising, I will first, pause whatever I'm doing. Second, take 5 deep breaths and feel my feet on the ground. Third, name the fear out loud. I'm feeling afraid of war. Fourth, decide, is this productive concern or catastrophizing? Fifth, if catastrophizing, I close news and do one grounding activity. Walk, call a friend, create something. Sixth, if productive concern, I take one concrete action. Donate, prepare, reach out, and then release worrying about outcomes. The sequence doesn't have to be exactly this. It just needs to be your sequence, your specific steps that work for you, and you practice it. Every time fear comes up, you run the protocol. And over time, your nervous system learns. When fear arises, we have a way to process it. We don't spiral, we follow the protocol. And that creates safety. Because you're not at the mercy of the fear, you have a response, a tool, a way through. Here's what I want you to understand. The fear of World War III is real. The anxiety is valid. You're not overreacting. You're having a very human response to very real global threat. But spiraling in that fear doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you, and you need to be functional, whether for yourself or for the people you love. So you learn to process the fear consciously, to feel it without being consumed, to distinguish productive concern from catastrophizing, and to have a protocol that interrupts spiraling. We covered why logic and suppression don't work. Fear is emotional and physiological, not rational. We explored what spiraling is, unprocessed fear circulating and building on itself. And we walked through 3 practices. Name the fear specifically and feel it in your body for a contained period. Distinguish between productive concern and unproductive catastrophizing. And create a fear protocol you follow every time terror arises. This doesn't make the fear disappear. Global tensions are real. The threat is real. Your concern is appropriate. But you can hold that concern without letting it destroy your capacity to function. You can be aware of danger without living in constant terror. You can prepare wisely without catastrophizing endlessly. That's the balance. That's resilience. So here's your practice for today. Set a timer for 10 minutes. Write down your biggest fear about World War III. Then let yourself feel it, really feel it, in your body for those 10 minutes. Cry if you need to, shake if you need to, and when the timer goes off, ground yourself. Return to now. And notice, you felt the fear fully and you're still here, still okay. The fear didn't destroy you, and you can do this again whenever you need to. Let me know in the comments, what's your biggest fear about global tensions right now? Sometimes just naming it helps. You're not alone in this terror, and you have more capacity to process it than you realize. Welcome to Processing Fear Consciously. This is where you reclaim your power.